There's always quite a lot of debate in non-duality circles, in non-duality chat, about knowing and not knowing, isn't there? Really, if I use the term not knowing, really what I'm trying to point to is that there's no knowing whether you know or you don't know. The knowing that you know is the illusion. And of course, that makes knowing that you don't know equally illusory. That's not helpful. That's not very good in any discussion about, is this about knowing or not knowing? Because you know, there's plenty of speakers who call themselves non-duality speakers who talk about knowing. And then of course, there's even more who talk about not knowing. And really, I don't know the difference. Other than what I could say that I know, I'm not really sure at all anymore that I know that. I mean, that's pretty useless, really. But life is much more light without that need to know. That's really what is being pointed to. So whether there's a sense of knowing or whether there's a sense of I don't know, it really makes no odds. That's the freedom. Freedom from fear of not knowing. Because for me, I was always trying to plug holes in my knowledge, plug holes in my understanding, fill the gaps, bridge the gaps, make sense. And that always suggested to me that I was getting closer to something, to somewhere. And it might just be obvious that there isn't anywhere to get to. There really aren't any gaps. There isn't anything to bridge. There's nothing that needs completing. And even if the sense of, oh, now, you know, there can be still a sense of, I didn't know that. Now there's a sense of knowing something that wasn't known before. That's completely insignificant. So really, if I'm using the term not knowing or unknowing, I'm really speaking about the insignificance of knowledge. And when any human being says what they know, they're only really saying what they think they know. That's what knowledge really means. I think I know this, and I think I don't know that. So what? But I have a sense that I was looking for not knowing, and I thought I'd know when I didn't know. You know, when I've come to not knowing, when there is not knowing, then I'll know that. No. It might sound completely ridiculous, but there is no knowing of not knowing. Of course not. Because not knowing is just the absence of knowledge that I think I need to have. That's all nonsense, isn't it? One of the most liberating aspects of not knowing is freedom from that need to know. When there's no knowing whether you know or not, because knowledge is seen to just be the words that you say, oh, now I have a word for that, and that seems to have filled this gap in my knowledge, this gap in my understanding. And self feels very self-gratified in that knowledge. But this message isn't interested in cleverness at all. Life's not interested in how clever you are. I was speaking with Lotta the other day, and she used the word ambivalence. And it's a nice word. And there is a real ambivalence about not knowing or not knowing. There really is. It makes no difference whether you say you know or you don't. And the reason I think I'm speaking about it, or I'm saying this, is because I know I was waiting. A lot of the waiting that this isn't, I'm not there yet, is because I'm waiting until I know. And I'll be sure to know when I know. It'll be obvious. It won't be obvious. It'll be obvious that knowledge is irrelevant to what we're speaking about. Knowledge is relevant for everything practical, but for what we're speaking of, it's of no significance at all. I don't know what we're speaking of. We're speaking of this. But what this is, that would require knowledge, and there can be none. There can be no knowing of this. And yet, most paradoxically of all, then this is completely known without any knowing, without any knowledge, without any understanding. This doesn't need to be understood to be exactly as it is. That's always layered on top of, or as a, it's like a poor substitute. And the desire for it is absolutely clear that that is purely for my security, for my sense of, now I've got it. You can't have this. You can't know this, no matter how much you want to. There will be plenty of people who will tell you that they do know. And I can't say that they don't, but all I can say is, well, of course, they think they know. Well, that's fine. But that's not what we're speaking of. We're not speaking of knowing life. We're speaking of life doesn't require any knowledge. That's the freedom. Freedom from the need to know. While the desire to know is there, of course, there will be a pursuit of it. But it's a futile pursuit. All seeking is futile because everything is already. You can't know more or less about this. That's why it's free. And in my story, I spent years and years learning, reading, studying. And it's a great disappointment when it becomes glaringly and unmistakably obvious that it was all for nothing. There's nothing that needs to be known. It's the cosmic joke. It's a tragic joke, though. If it does become obvious, then there'll be tears and laughter. Probably a lot of tears before the laughter. For the one who tried so hard to understand. Trying to be God. Self is always trying to be God in one way or another. And this pursuit as a seeker is probably, you know, now I've tried to be God, but now I'm really, this is the last leg. Because once I know this, then I'll be there. If not God, then I'll at least be sitting on his right hand, at very least, some kind of Messiah. And if not a Messiah, then at least some kind of wise man. At least I'll have wisdom. And it feels like all of that is taken, because that's what I am. The sense of I is all of that. And it feels like the loss of everything that you've called yourself, which is that what I know. And at the very core of that is I know who I am. And that can feel like the greatest loss of all, but it's no loss whatsoever. There's no one to lose or to win. That's why it feels like love, when there are no winners and losers. No one's closer than anyone else. No one's further away. No one's getting there. No one's got there. And in that is a wonderful equality that there could never be for me. Always feeling superior to some and inferior to others, based on whatever criteria I happen to be using at the time to measure my success. And there is disappointment. This is the impossibility of succeeding in life. That's what we're speaking of. Me's not going to buy it. Fucking hell, how hard have I tried to succeed? How many times have I failed? Well, they must be for something. That can't all be for nothing. Well, the liberation is, yeah, it was all absolutely for nothing. All of it. Isn't that wonderful? Dreadfully wonderful. And you're likely to weep for everyone, not just yourself. You'll see everyone trying so hard. And there can only be great compassion for that. But it'll be humorous as well. It's a dark humor. So I think there's quite a few questions in the chat. Shall I have a look? Oh, Lynette said the last words her sister uttered on her last day of life. This is a joke. Yeah, it can be seen. I think it's quite often seen at the end. There's many stories like that. Christy says, can you talk about how the story has no boundaries? Well, Christy, the story always has boundaries. You know, the story is, by the nature of telling a story, that is, the boundary is the story. It's always relative. It's about the characters in the story and their journey. That's every story is just that. So it's characters and a plot, a past and a future. And that's where self lives in the story. So this isn't saying that the stories, there's anything wrong with the stories. We're just speaking about the end of living in the story, the one who lived in the story, who was the main character in the story. So the stories are just the same. But stories feel very different when they're not my stories and they're not your stories. There's just stories. But yeah, stories are always the boundary. So that's why it's impossible to speak of this, because as I'm speaking about it here and I'm telling you a story. So that's not what we're speaking about, but it's all we've got. That's why the words are always, you can dismiss them. What we're speaking about is completely empty, it's wordless. Words just objectify what we're speaking of, which isn't an object.
Jackie has a hand up.
Jackie.
Oh, she's muted. I got it.
Hi, Jackie.
You're saying about things being empty. So I mean, I know this, this is just yet another kind of idea, and kind of no value or whatever.
It's all ideas.
Yeah, but yeah, like, is it like this is nothing appearing to happen, or this is nothing appearing? So, and that's empty. So, and that's the same, like with or without the me, like the, like
yeah.
like there with Tim,
Mhm.
there's no, you know, the natural reality, as Tony calls it, is what's happening. And here, what's happening is that there's a, you know, the appearance of a sense of me, but it's still completely empty and insubstantial and meaningless, and of no different from there not being a. It's just another thing that's happening, whether there's a sense of me or not. It's just more of the same.
It is, yeah.
Is that? It's all just nothing appearing.
Yeah,
So it's all empty.
Yeah, I think it is just another appearance. So there is an appearance of, or there's a, you could say the appearance is the sense of life is happening to me. But because I feel real, then the emptiness goes on, you could say it just goes unrecognized, unnoticed, however you really want to term it. But none of those are accurate, by the way, because I can't say that I notice it. I can't say that I recognize it. That's not how it is. There are no words to say how, because it's completely nonsensical. This doesn't make sense to me. How on earth could you recognize emptiness? There's nothing to see or to recognize. So if you ask me,
Yes,
so now I recognize emptiness, I can't say that, but I haven't got words to say the very obviousness that everything's empty. I have no idea how that's being, I can't say it's perceived. None of the words that I could use for a recognition, I just use the word obvious because it seems to get challenged less. But anyone could challenge me and say, well, how do you recognize that? And then I'd have to say, well, I don't. And then they go, well, that's all you ever speak. That's all you ever speak about. And I went, yeah, but I can't see it. I can't recognize it. But here it is anyway. But the emptiness is the things, though. That's the hardest bit to convey. So it's not like there's the emptiness of which the things appear from, you know. So it's not emptiness appearing as things. All the things are empty.
Yeah.
I don't have any sense
it's not like you.
that, you know, that the emptiness is the source of all things. There's no sense of that at all. It's so life is exactly as it appeared to me. It's perception is exactly the same, but things don't have the, as well as being what they are, they're also not what they are. That's kind of what I was trying to say at the beginning with knowing. So I can still say I know, you know, I know the cup, and it is a cup, but it's also completely empty. And by that I don't mean just not full of coffee. The actual cup is not a cup, as well as being a cup. So so that's the there's no knowing of knowing or unknowing. Neither. Well, really, it's just that you just don't give a shit about knowing anymore. And so because you don't give a shit about knowing anymore, there's no giving a shit about not knowing. Because of course, not knowing was just me being scared that, oh, without knowing that, then, oh, I need to, in order to feel secure and to be moving forward and to feel okay, then I need to know. I need to know what the hell is going on here. And the wonder is, you don't need to know. But equally, you don't need to not know either. Because this message can sound like, well, in order to get where those speakers are speaking from, to be in that place, then I need to, you know, unlearn everything. I need to unknow everything. Well, there is no unknowing any more than there is knowing. Again, one falls into the other. Neither of them, neither have any significance. Because it can sound like, in non-duality, it can sound like, okay, the way is the way of unknowing, the way of not knowing. Well, of course, then you're going to try to not know. That won't get you anywhere. Nothing will get you anywhere. I don't know that. Was that even a remote answer to your question, Jackie? I can't even remember.
No, I can't remember either.
Sorry, I missed that.
I can't remember either, but it's kind of frustrating because I think there's a delay because my internet's so poor. There's a delay, so I can't kind of get into the conversation because there's a delay always. So, but never mind.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
sorry
it's
about
a
that.
bit frustrating.
Yeah, that is a bit frustrating.
I thought that was a good
No,
answer.
lots of people with a hand.
Who's got the hand up?
Yeah, so we've got lots of hands up. So I'm going to do them in order.
Go on
So
then.
we had Michael first.
Michael.
Do you imagine, Tim, that for us, there's anything at all beyond the objectification of it? That there exists anything for us?
No,
I'm sorry?
no, nothing.
Nothing. Maybe that's the emptiness that you speak of.
That is it. Yeah, that is exactly it.
Yeah. Well,
So so there isn't something called unknowing, which would be the, you know, that sounds like it could be a knowing of emptiness or a knowing of nothing. Well, of course, the words nothing and emptiness are just points to the fact that there isn't anything to know. There's definitely nothing called emptiness, and there's nothing called nothing. But I remember how much as a seeker, that's what I was looking for. I was looking for nothing. Me and my mate even named our website Seeking Nothing. There you go. That's what we called it. I say ours, it was his, but sort of came up with the notion that we were seekers of nothing. That's what we were looking for, as if we could found it, as if we could, you know, we'd know when we'd found nothing. And the terrible news is that there is nothing to find. And that is the finding nothing, isn't it? And that's the end. It's just the end of this, what we call the seeker, that endless desire to know, to understand, to make sense of. When life is perfectly okay with whether you make sense of it or not. It's immaterial. It's wonderfully indifferent. There is a wonderful indifference that life has to you and your, what can seem to be very pathetic attempts to understand everything. That's what we're speaking of. And of course, even more pathetic attempts to understand nothing. Imagine that the human mind, the human brain, a human being could have a conception, a full understanding of nothing. Oh, it's just, I mean, the arrogance of self knows no bounds, does it? And the wonder is that I hear so many human beings who name nothing as consciousness or name nothing as awareness and then say it's fully understood or it's implied. Well, I mean, I've never bought it. I used to desire it, so I went along with it. Well, they must know then. They've given it a name.
Mm.
So of course, nothing can sound like you've given it a name, but it's the best word we've got that means nothing, really. It's nothing. I can't think of a better one.
I think it's easy to mistake description for understanding.
Mm,
All we can do is describe, but
yeah,
understand, we don't understand anything.
no, not at all.
Can't be understood.
No, nothing that I'm speaking about is understanding.
Mm.
No. What I'm trying to convey is that there is no necessity to understand.
Mm.
And that's the rest.
Mm.
That's the break you've been looking for. But it's not what you're looking for. It's just not. So I always say it's not what you want. It's not what you want because you want to know. I know. I wanted to know for long enough. I'd call it a giving up, but I'm well aware that I didn't give up. I fought to the death. That's a much closer description. And again, that's not an explanation. That's as you say, Michael, that's a poor attempt at a description. It feels like, I mean, it's like self has it as a human right. I have a right to know. I have a right to know what's going on. I know my rights, you know, the indignant self. You can't tell me that I can't know. No, I'm not telling you you can't know. You'll have to find that out for yourself. It's no good me telling you. And that does go, whatever we're speaking about, that's very, very obvious. It doesn't matter. You will not be told this. You can enjoy listening to descriptions, but it's not something that you can know and understand.
David has his hand up next.
David?
And after David, there'll be Scott and then Heidi, just to let them know.
Hi, David.
Hi, Tim.
Hi.
Hey, beautiful being with you. When I really honestly can say, answering any question, I don't know. It's a true wonderful thing to know that I'm not shortchanging anybody. I'm just saying the most really compassionate thing that can be said, because if I said, well, maybe we can figure it out or whatever, let's look at it a different way, you know, get all involved in analysis. What the heck? Just say, I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's the most beautiful feeling when you really say that.
It is, yeah.
Congruously from your heart.
Yeah.
Without any kind of regrets.
Yeah.
Like I should know. No.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's okay.
Well, that's at the root of suffering. That's why, you know,
Yeah.
throughout the ages that self has been seen as the root, you know, the cause of suffering is because I say I should know.
I should know.
I should know. I should know better. I should know more. I should be able to solve this problem.
Yeah.
Well, why should you?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
we're so as an engineer, which is one of the many professions I've practiced, it seems to be counter to survival to not know. How can you survive as an engineer without knowing?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's best if you're an engineer, you should know something about engineering. I'm not suggesting that.
Right, right. And you need to know the difference between, you know, a pound coin and a penny coin when you go and buy a beer, you know.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Give the right coin.
It's not that kind of practical knowing, you know, that I'm speaking about.
I know. I know.
Yeah, of course, that
clear.
is useful. But, you know, but hopefully by the age of 7 or 8, you've learned everything that you did other than engineering. But in terms of, you know, if you think what you need to live I don't know, a functional life, you could pretty much stop learning anything else after the age of 7 or 8.
Okay.
It's all bullshit after that.
Yep. Oh, but it's fun.
And I should know, because I taught kids 11 to 18 years for 30 years, so I'm an expert in that. Teaching them a lot of stuff that they didn't need to know.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, David. But yeah, you're dead right. It is compassionate to say I don't know.
It is.
Yeah, it is. If you're just sitting with somebody and they're distraught, you know, they're in despair, or they're in great distress, they're really not. They may be implying that they want you to solve their problems, but that's not the compassion. No, it isn't. So what should I do? The compassion is I don't know, because no one knows the answer to human being, the natural suffering, the natural pain of being human. There aren't answers to that. I don't know is the loving answer. Yes, I agree, David. But what we normally do, what self normally does, is in order to feel good about myself, I need to help him sort it out, to make him feel better.
Scott, next.
Hi, Scott.
Hi, Tim. Hi, everyone. I love this about not knowing. Lately, I've just been saying nobody knows. And that seems to answer like the part of me that insists on some. And also, I don't know what I'm going to do in 10 minutes, but nobody knows. So I'll just sit in nobody, and then nobody will make the perfect decision in 10 minutes. And it's almost like I'm just trusting that it's always knowing.
Yeah.
It's always knowing. So it doesn't need my prevision and my decision making. Something really funny happened to me yesterday at the gym, and I don't want to get you jealous about me going to the gym. I mean, we still have that here too. I do.
I am jealous. Well, not really the gym, but if you said you played golf, I'd be jealous.
Yeah, well, you're the golfer. I had this little thought, I was looking around the gym, and then I said, there's no they. I invented they. Like the whole thing fell apart. I invented they because I needed this world to be full of them for some reason. Like my whole personhood was based on there being they.
Yeah.
And when that fell, I mean, we make the world feel full and real because we want that. We're making it. It was always empty. I needed there to be a them because I needed that to make me.
Yeah. Well, but one doesn't exist without the other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I don't even need to make the machine or the treadmill be something unless I need it to serve me in some way, because otherwise I just use it. Like the coffee cup. I don't even think about it.
No.
It's being separate or over there or outside of my world or inside my world.
No.
But we do this. We make theys.
Yeah.
These people.
But yeah, it's all innocent though, Scott. You know that we did. Yeah, we did that with our mother first, for nearly everyone, I guess. You know, there was a realization at some point. There was me and mother, rather than there was no separation between mother and me. There was no me. There was no mother.
Maybe before that there was my pain or my fear, and that was the birthplace of there being a me and a there. You know, my pain, I didn't know what it was, and so
Well, that's the separation. I don't want to get too Freudian about it because it can sound a bit Freudian, but it's very obvious that's the separation. There was no me, there was no mother, there was just that beautiful. It wasn't a relationship. There was nothing in relationship because it needs me to be, and then that sense of being separate, and then that's the great. Well, I think that's the great sorrow. That's the great loss. That's what most of the seeking is for wholeness, to get back to that. When of course you never left, but it really felt like you did. So you were always trying to get somewhere, to try and get back. In a beautiful, futile way that there was nowhere to get back to because there was no one who ever left.
Yeah, what seems to happen is we invented this somebody, and we've been riding its coattails for a long time, and then we just don't need to hold it anymore. It's irrelevant. But that we invented the world for our own purpose is weird. It's just weird. It was like it was supposed to give us some comfort, and it doesn't. Defining it, making it causal, and.
Well, because I'm so needy, self is so needy, because I'm alone, I'm small and alone, then I need others. I'm so needy of others. I is so needy of others because it's such a lonely place to be, small and separate in this vast world.
Yeah. That's
not how it is.
That's I think the height of compassion is we need to go back to that point and say it's okay, you didn't screw up.
Yeah, but unfortunately the 1.5-year-old child can't hear you and won't understand you. You could just hold him. If you wanted to be therapeutic about it, you could just give him a cuddle. There's no explanations required.
Yeah.
No, none. There's no words required. There's no words at all. It doesn't have to be anything. This is, yeah, it's just saying it's okay.
I kind of like this explanation also of nobody knows, because it's smaller than a thought. I mean, you can't go through this gate with any kind of paradox or need to know, because that would just be descriptive. So
yeah,
you can only go through with absolutely no itinerary, nothing, no hope of defining it.
No.
And it's before words. It's before words. It's not even afterwards. It's before words.
Yeah.
So it's that point in ourselves that's just so pure, this nobody.
Yeah, it's definitely before words, that's for sure.
Yeah. And the mind, the poor mind. Just doesn't.
Yeah, I say it's before words, and then I sit in front of you every week and just, spout endless words at you as though they have some significance. But it's all we've got, really. We can just sit together and.
Yeah, maybe words are the breadcrumbs we're following back to, where.
Yeah,
where
it is cliche, but yeah, they're pointing to what can't be pointed to. And of course, they don't really point at anything, because you can't point at nothing, can you?
Unless
look, there it is. No, that's not it. That's not it. Wherever you point, it's always there, wherever you point, of course. Thanks, Scott. I better ask Heidi. Heidi's had a hand up ages. Hi, Heidi.
Hey, Tim.
Hey.
Tim, would you say that, or not would you say, but I'm just bringing this up, this idea about that things like ideas, thoughts, concepts appear and disappear, they appear and disappear. Yet most people have this idea, including myself, of and just kind of pondering this, but that most people perceive time to be linear, and so if a thought or a concept or some feeling arises, then having the perception of linear time would make it real in a way. Whereas, because I don't even, and I even Googled, like, what's the opposite of linear? Like, and there's not really, that I know of, an opposite word to linear.
No, well, you can conceptualize it in another way. I don't know where I've seen it. I don't agree with this, by the way, but you can conceptualize it as vertical, as time, rather than horizontal and linear of past. And here we are. You drew the timelines in history lessons at school. You did a timeline.
Right, yeah.
And usually it's drawn horizontally, but you could just, so this is Eckhart Tolle's version of time.
Oh yeah.
Eckhart Tolle's version of time is just one vertical line of now.
Ah, okay.
So
Yeah, I guess.
So I've given you another conceptual.
Again, yeah, it could be made into another concept, but just the idea of things, ideas, thoughts appear and disappear. Therefore, they really have no sustenance or. Right, yeah, and I think that's probably the cause of most pain and suffering, is really having this idea and thinking that it's this linear, that we experience things in this.
Absolutely.
Linear.
Well, I think most of the suffering from thoughts is because they're mine. They have significance. They mean something. They mean something. They mean something. I've had this thought. That thought is significant because I've had it. That's where suffering.
Even the idea, I is an idea.
Whereas thoughts are, thoughts just they are. I mean, if anything can be seen as empty, thoughts can. I mean, everything is empty, but thoughts it is self who gives all meaning to thoughts. Thoughts do not have any intrinsic meaning at all.
But, literally they appear and literally disappear. Because as they appear, they're gone.
Do you not find, Heidi, that they're not, to say they're even here, that they are even here, when you're thinking about a thought, hasn't it already gone?
Yes.
I mean, you can't even, neuroscientists would tell me how long a thought is usually, but it's gone as it's arrived. And usually the thought is about the thought. It's not the actual thought, is it?
Yes. And that's what makes it linger.
Exactly. It never lingers. No, there's just another thought and another one and another one. Another one. Yeah. So a thought never lingers.
Say that again now?
A single thought never stays. But of course, in the repetition or the thoughts about the thoughts.
Yeah, loops.
The story of I can't get rid of this thought.
Right.
Well, it's just one thought after another. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But the lightness, if we're speaking about this as freedom, it's freedom. It's not freedom from thoughts. I have nothing to say about whether there's, that no thought is any better than having constant thoughts. The freedom is from the thoughts being mine, and it's me and my survival and my well-being that gives all the weight and significance to those thoughts and makes them important.
Right.
And in that is the suffering. Thoughts don't mean anything. until I say they mean something.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a thought, and then I immediately have a thought after about that
Yeah, so
thought,
what? So what?
saying what it means, though.
Yeah.
You know, I will try and make sense of it.
Yeah. 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 It gives it the weight. Yeah. Right. Got it. Yeah. Thanks, Tim.
But I don't have anything to say about
Linear time and
it's just, again,
another
I don't
concept.
know, but it can be obvious that there is no time, even though there is an appearance of time. The appearance is exactly as it was when time felt absolutely real, but it's only real. It's always, its reality came from me and my reality, and without having a sense of my own real existence being inside this body on a timeline, time is it's just, I can't say that there is no time. It's just incredibly loose, really. That's a better way of saying it. It's like time or no time, again, I couldn't give a shit. I couldn't care less whether you say there's time or not, because I would say absolutely there's no time. I could say that, but that doesn't mean anything. There is the appearance of time, but that doesn't mean anything either. But yeah, there is appearance of time when I look in the mirror and see that old face looking back at this very youthful sense of being, going, really? Have I got to walk around with this all day? Surely I'm due a trade-in. Can I get a new model? Oh, I so wish I had some new legs. That's what I want, really. I'm going to get a new car, and really it's just a poor substitute for wanting new legs so that I could run again.
Nice.
I miss running. I miss running more than anything. And I genuinely do miss running. I see my little boys running, and I get such vicarious pleasure from watching the joy. Because my 6-year-old son, his favorite thing is just running. You know, Forrest Gump running. So why does he run? He's running for running's sake. It's just, wow, what a joy. I mean, there's like the purest being human. So why are you doing it? It's just brilliant running, isn't it? Which it is. I mean, it is brilliant.
Tim. It's Darren.
Darren.
Hi. I quite like, I didn't realize that was Eckhart Tolle's thing.
I think, all right, now I say that, I think that's where I saw it.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
I saw in The Power of Now, when I read The Power of Now, I read it when it came out, I got it, yeah. And I just remember seeing this vertical line, I go, oh yeah, that's clever. I never thought it was right, ever. I just thought, oh no, that's quite clever, because he's just turned it around, and rather than doing it horizontally, he's just put it vertically. I thought it's the same difference, really, isn't it?
Well,
Whether time goes up or along makes no odds.
Oh, see, I always saw it more as I quite liked it, because to me it meant it felt like it's still.
That's what he's suggesting, stillness. Yeah.
Yeah, I quite liked it in that respect. But not as a now. I
mean, I'm just loath to agree with anything that he says now, but I have to say at the time I loved it. Yeah. Okay. I'll concede it.
Yeah.
He's made too much money. I'm far too envious of the bastard,
He has
really.
made a lot of money. Yeah.
He's just too wealthy for his own good. I mean, how does he maintain that unbelievable level of humility when he's making millions? I don't know how he does it. He's got no right to be humble.
Scott's got his hand up.
And yeah, he is. I mean, yeah, he's still quite lovable, isn't he?
Yeah.
Hey, I just wanted to say one thing about time is that you lose the idea that it can ever be wasted.
Yeah, yeah.
It just seems to, that's such a nice thing to get rid of.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Like if you have to sit in line for half an hour or 2 days or 5 minutes, it doesn't change anything because you still are in time. So there's no more of this rushing to get things done because they're all happening spontaneously.
No, that is a great that is a great joy, that you can't waste time anymore. Well, there'll be joy in wasting time, what others would call wasting time, and what you would in the past would have called wasting your time. I like nothing more than watching TV programs that I should never ever be watching, that are the most crass, inane, pointless, you know, facile, any other derogatory term you want for daytime TV. There's nothing I enjoy than lying on the sofa when I could be doing something quite worthwhile and just wasting 2 hours.
We had this idea of you always on the golf course.
Well, no, well, Scott, I will be, but I'm not allowed.
Oh, geez.
The COVID police come and get me if I go to the golf course.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah.
You might
We've
have-
got, I've got it's 4 weeks time it opens.
You might have to take a driver to them.
Yeah. Well, I won't bore people with my golf, but I have been practicing in the garden.
Oh, good. All right, thanks.
Has anybody else got a question they'd like to ask? Oh, it is 8 o'clock. If anybody wants to say anything or ask anything, the last couple of minutes. So you don't have to try to be good enough. You'll never be good enough. That's the great news. The great news is you can't be good enough. Not that you're already good enough. You'll hear that in lots of new age shit, won't you? Yeah, oh, you're already wonderful. You don't, you know, there's no, you're always good enough. No, it's not that. It's that there's no you to be good enough. Good enough is something just made up by me and all the other me's who told you from childhood that you weren't good enough, and you have to work damn hard in order to attain good enough status. What that award would look like, of course, you never got it, did you? I've never met anyone who's achieved it. Have you? What? And this is the this is the collusion by all selves who collude with each other. That's how we maintain society. That's how we maintain standards, is by ensuring that no one ever feels good enough. You could, that's normality. That's what everyone calls normal. And some people have the nerve to say what is being spoken here is bollocks. Well, I'd suggest the contrary to be true. And what is called normal, that is shit. Self, all the selves, virtually all of them, told you and every small child from an early age what they needed to do in order to attain good enough status. And most adults at the age of 60 are still on that path, still working towards when there will be this glorious award ceremony when you've reached that goal. And I have great pleasure in telling you there is no goal. There's nothing to attain. There's no one good enough or not good enough. Isn't that brilliant? I think it's brilliant.
Just before you go, Tim, Joseph's got his hand up. Do you want to do one more?
Who, Joey?
Joseph.
Oh, Joseph.
Yeah,
Where's
it's me.
Oh,
Joey.
It is Joey.
Joey.
Hello, mate.
Hey man, when what you were just saying, I just had this thought that I usually, when I talk to people about non-duality who, consider it a crazy idea,
Yeah.
I usually say, well, you daren't consider this as a possibility, because if this is possibility, the whole world is fucked up.
Yeah.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah, that is
Anyway.
true. Yeah, but the wonderful thing is, it's very the fucked upness is seen as completely innocent, though. That's, no one can help it.
Yeah.
That's lovely. So you, in that sense, there's no one. So the sense of not good enough is not fucked up. It's innocent, and so there's great compassion for everyone who feels fucked up, and that is the great majority of humanity. I'd like you could think about how many people who have a sense, or you feel, you'll never know this because they're not likely to tell you, but who you think they feel good enough. And if you get one, I'll be amazed.
Yeah.
And I can't say this is a sense of feeling good enough. It's not that. It's just the absence of that sense of not good enough. And the impossibility of ever being good enough. That's the rest. That's the peace. I'm not suggesting that non-duality is the holy grail where you will finally get your award, because that's what you've been waiting for. To get that. There is nothing to get. That's the best I've got. That's the best on offer. There is no award. This is you could say this is an empty prize. This is not a, so you get on the rostrum, you step up because you've got there, and no one turns up. There's no one in the audience. There's no award ceremony. There's no medals. You don't get a certificate. Thank God. Because if it was achievable, of course, then there would be a lot of special ones who I would be recommending you go and listen to rather than me, who could offer you the chance of that. As I said the other week, this is the end of the possibility of that ever being attained. And that is actually the rest and the peace that's always been really longed for. But it isn't what you've wanted, because you've wanted the achievement. And that's not possible. So on that very optimistic note, I will conclude today's meeting. Oh, I love it. Hit you with a big stick to finish. It's not really a big stick. There's no sticks, by the way. And I'm not really that violent unless pushed. Lovely to see you all. Thanks for coming. Next week, I've got 3 meetings. Like you want to come to all of those. So Monday and Thursday as usual, and then Nothing FM, the Tim Cliss Show, episode 3, on Wednesday at 5 p.m. Oh no, there's something else. I was invited to speak at, it's very grandly called a summit, which, I didn't know I was part of the G8, but I'm part of this summit on who are you? What is your true nature? Susan, who set it up, asked me. So that is advertised on my Facebook, and that's on Saturday. I think that's any time. It's for free, and you can go to that anytime on Saturday. I did put the other names of the speakers, who I don't think are non-duality speakers. So if you're sick and tired of hearing this same old shit, you might go to that and hear something interesting. You might do. Yeah, so that's on Saturday, that's free. If you'd like to make a donation, then by all means do so through the website. And if you haven't seen yet, I have put on the website the retreat in Copenhagen, which is on the 1st of October. And Lotte and Annette, who are organising it, they've told me to plug it every meeting to hopefully get a few people to go. Anyway, thanks for coming, everyone. Take care.
See you, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks.
All the best.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Bye,
Bye.
Tim.
Cheers.
Thank you, Tim. Bye.
Bye.
Cheers. Cheers, Dave. Nice to see you.
Love you, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Dave, do you want to borrow my clippers?
Yes.
I thought so.
Are you going to go to Copenhagen?
Yeah. Do you want to?
I might come as it happens.
Yeah.
I'll speak
Well, I was thinking you all ought to come to Copenhagen. Really, that sounds like a good weekend.
It does as it happens. Yeah. I'll speak.
Okay. Cheers.